Welcome, cosmic travelers, to the Quantum Shift, where each week we leave the ordinary behind and step into a world of extraordinary possibilities. Imagine our reality being portaled into the realm of 5D wonderment, magic, and heartfelt living. This isn't just a wild concept. It's our new journey with the archangels and the world they built for the crystal DNA hue. Joining us on this adventure is our guide, George, who is our personal galactic guide from the 13th dimension. His profound insights never stop challenging and expanding minds. Our perceptions are easing their way into the zero-point timeline of a new quantum reality and newly awakened expressions of wisdom and mastery. Every episode promises to leap into the unknown, sparking vibrant discussions that illuminate our minds and transform our souls. We are putting on the parachute and getting ready to jump into the unknown. Let's pull the ripcord together and leap into a new realm of spiritual awakening. Brace for the stars as the Quantum Shift merges with an in-depth journey with your cosmic navigators. Introducing your host of the Quantum Shift, Dr. Sam Mugzzi and Digital Tom.
Welcome to the Quantum Shift.
Hello, and thanks for joining us in this new series we're calling Spiritual Lightworkers. This show is called Dark to Light. I'm so excited to hear what George has in store for you guys in this episode. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. Dr. Mugzzi, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing fantastic. Today's a great day. We're one step closer to flipping this paradigm, and it's going to be amazing. I would really like to encourage everybody to hold on, because everything is going to be so wonderful once we rid ourselves of not only the Dracos, but also the darkness that has been infused into our reality against our free will. It's kind of, sort of. They manufactured an acceptance through movies and propaganda and weaponizing mainstream media, but it really wasn't our free will to experience the depths of darkness that they created. So it's all being cleared off. We're all getting a new, clean slate, and these guys are going to be gone. So I just want to encourage everybody, take a deep breath and really focus within, focus building the I am. That's all there is. The stronger you become, the more infused the sun becomes with your well wishes. And then it's projected out onto the whole planet. So it's very important that you guys stay centered and stay focused, creating our new paradigm. All right. So what I want to begin with, Dark to Light, is explain Archangel Michael, or Commander Valiant Thor. He's an amazing gentleman. I was explaining him to Tom, and I wanted to do a show on it because you guys don't know, you don't feel him really. Most people treat him more of a figure from our history, from what we've gathered from Bible verses or sculptures or even folklore. And I wanted to kind of set the whole story straight by letting you tap into his energy, so that you know when he's around, you know when somebody's being authentic, because now you have an energetic ruler to sort of appraise your situations. Okay, so Archangel Michael is amazing for the fact that when he says something, he does something. A promise made is a promise kept. And if he tells you something, you can bank on it that it's going to happen. There is no misconceptions, no deterring, no fake sleight of hand type of stuff. When he makes you a promise, he's going to do his best to not only make that well wish happen, but he's going to do it with archangel style and at an A+ quality that most people can't even conceive. So when he takes people's ideas of something, I'm telling you, he will infuse that well wish with intelligence, wisdom, and boatloads of knowledge from past lives. And I'm talking trillions of lives that he's been around. So he has this encyclopedia that, let's say, each volume every year, you have 15 trillion, is all stored in his head. So when he is going to make a change or create a new society or create a habitat, he's brilliant because he looks at all aspects of that decision. Who's he affecting? How's it gonna interplay with the habitat in general? Who wins? Who loses? How can I offset the losing? I heard a story about a beekeeper saying that, sometimes he has to kill the bees to get the honey. And that is stupid thinking. And that is just not living in harmony with your bees. There has to be a better way where the people or the beings that are feeding you, nurturing you, and then you're not killing them. That's just plain stupid. So when Michael looks at a situation, he's always evaluating what is going to be the loss, how to offset the loss, and how to make every situation a win-win. When he attacks a situation, it's with the heart of a lion. He is strong, he's brave, he's ruthless. I remember a story where, there's some dark beings and mountains, and I was telling George, get away, get away. I didn't want him to get hurt. Run, right? That's my fear. And he took his ship and just puts it right on top of the mountain and starts laughing. He's like, what are they going to do? Have a bigger ship, better technology, better crew, bigger guns. What are they going to do? So he would actually jab them, get them, come on, you guys. He'd provoke them into attacking him so that he could get rid of them because they didn't belong on this timeline. So he could eliminate them all without having fear of being caught in a karma cycle because they didn't belong. That is the way that the galactics think about every situation, is that they're always going to give you their best for what's best for you. It's not about them. To me, the whole Western medicine paradigm was created to entice the service to self. The people that are playing the systems, that are on welfare, that are on disability, that shouldn't be, they're playing the systems, and somehow that system then comes around and gets them and plays them. That's sort of the paradigm that was happening. People that didn't develop the self were more interested in the dollar because the dollar could make it seem like they have developed, that they're energy workers and they can manifest whatever they want because they have these dollars. But the dollars are associated to blood money, which is totally dark. There's no way to get around it. It's dark, it's evil, you shouldn't be doing it. So if you're making profit off of other people's lives, then you're going back to 3D and you're going to have to pay back those lives. That's all there is to it. You're going to get stuck in the karma net. But if you're doing the destruction of evil within this paradigm that doesn't exist, then you don't create karma. There is no karma. Okay. So not only Michael, but when Michael picks his crews, he literally will find the best of the best. He does not employ or associate with people that come to the table with a fishing grade of a C quality or a B quality. He's like, hey man, you're great. I love you, dude, but go back to school. His staff, his crew, the people that surround him are going to be the best of the best of the best. And the reason being is because if he ever has to ask his chef, hey, dude, what's the best way to make an enchilada? He's going to get the best ingredients, the best techniques, the best oven, and the best prepared food that also is going to be incorporating frequency and an attitude of love and I want to say acceptance, but it's not acceptance. It's more of like a respect that is infused into the food. So when Michael eats whatever he's eating, he's digesting this energy vibration that's put off by this best of the best of the best chef. And that food then will then begin to vibrate out within his essence. So Michael is very conscientious of energy, frequency, and those people that are around him. Not only that, he is a warrior, but he's a lover. So he has that dichotomy. He has excellent boundaries. And even like he is so in tune with energy that if he feels a negative vibe, like say he's in a stadium, he will feel one person's negative vibe. He can seek them out and you're out of that auditorium because an auditorium amplifies the energy. And if there's one black ball in there, it's going to hinder everybody. So with this mindset, what happened is that the other realms, there are 7 realms within this solar system under our great sun. And each planetary system then has their own sun that infuses this light from the central sun, and it's infused into that realm. Each realm will have their own planetary system or disk of a planetary system that then has their own sun. So when we're in a convergence, we could have 7 suns. And those 7 suns are going to light us up energetically from the primary sun, which is a violet light that is infused with the highest consciousness you can imagine. So that is what is surrounding our planet right now. This is what we're picking up on. And the dark is trying like crazy to keep the vibration down. That's why you see the vampire movement. And then there's the now werewolves and the Haitians that are eating people. And now there's the spiders. They have giant spiders coming on board. This was all planned and was foretold 20 years ago when I was interviewing people on Blog Talk Radio, that there were people that had knowledge of all this way back when. And Kent Dunn actually even elaborated more on it. At the time, most of us thought he was bat crap crazy, that that would never happen here. And then lo and behold, here it is. What I appreciate about Kent Dunn spewing these ideas that are just freaking crazy is that he took the arrows from us, calling him names, but also it allowed us to think about what we would do in the event that it did happen. What if? So this way we're not going into schizophrenia mode, because now we're seeing all this stuff in the back of our mind, we were kind of expecting it. We knew it was going to happen. So we're already mentally prepared. We have our guns, we have our mace, we have our AK-47s, we have whatever, our machetes. Some people even made bigger, better guns than that. We're prepared because of the lunatics that were brave enough to come out and warn us about what the deep state was planning on doing and what they had been doing on other planetary systems. So, Tom, you want to add anything?
I think that it's important for people to realize that that really helped us in many ways, because most people are dismissive. Even if they see the spider on the beach or the vampire, they still dismiss it as, no, that can't be real. And so I think that was a real great benefit for us to get that information, even though we thought he was bat crap crazy, like you always say. However, when we see stuff like that, it really triggers our mind, and we don't dismiss it. We don't say, no, that can't be real. We're like, oh my gosh, that's real. We need to, get our sword out. We need to protect ourselves. That's all I wanted to say.
So, Venus is the planetary system of love. And the reason why they say that is because you have five five planetary systems of Venus, and it's surrounded by an ice wall. And this protects them from negative energy that maybe other planetary systems are setting off. Nobody wants to take that. So the ice walls are what you call negative ions. And when any type of a poison energy comes forward, the ice will actually diffuse their ions so that it can go to a poison ion. They marry and then they become moot, and it just falls to the ground. It's no longer carries any value whatsoever. It cannot harm or hurt anybody. It's God's cleaning system, purified system. Negative ions are one of the most important things that I think is involved in not only cleaning the water, but also cleaning thoughts, cleaning your house, cleaning whatever, because negative ions will attract a poison ion and make it inert. It just diffuses it. We need to do this to our pools and our spas instead of using harmful chemicals. So anyway, back to Venus. Venus has a planetary system called Isabel. Isabel is called the Great Jesus. Now, there are people that live in this like continent that have all of the concepts, belief systems of Jesus. That's why it's called the Jesus planet. And I'll get more into this in a minute. But these people actually have been incarnating on our planet and coming to our planet to help elevate our frequencies. And this has changed us throughout history, and it's actually written about in various works through the Bible, scripts, any type of historical artifact. There are stories, there are clocks, there are buildings, there are sculptures. All one has to do is go look, and you will start to find this. Remember, Isabel is the Great Jesus, okay? And that is a country within the Venus planetary system. It is protected by an ice wall so that they don't ever have to experience evil. There are 7 realms that Archangel Michael is in control of, right? This is his baby, and he has his friends, Gabriel, Matthew, and Ariel, that and there are others too. I don't have them all memorized. There are others too that assist Michael on his adventures in creating habitats and creating new life forms that are beneficial for his 7 realms. Now, Earth is the 3D, which is the most chaotic, which they call the underworld, because everything is kind of experienced in that way. But when we incarnate into the 3D, we're literally coming in with our own personality and our own belief systems, our own strengths and weaknesses. And it is our job to identify our weaknesses and develop a spiritual soul that is well balanced, that has grown these 3 Merkabas, which I'm calling stars, these 3 Merkabas, which will create this high vibration being, activate the DNA to a 1212, the 144,000, which graduates us out of the underworld and brings us into the 5, 6, 7D. You can go wherever you want. You can migrate to any planetary system that is mirrored with your own belief systems. But first, you have to tame the beast within. And the only way you know what the beast is by being set free and doing what you want within this environment. Okay. So 3D is all about the personality. Now, when you are bad and you have bad thoughts, these thoughts are in like a bubble, and they waft. They're like a wave in the ocean. They wave into existence. So your thoughts can hit the sun. Your sun will send the data to the moon, and then the moon uses transformers that are in the etheric that you can't see, that open up gates within your reality, which creates your world. So whatever you're experiencing, you're actually controlling the gates. Okay. So if you have a certain frequency, which becomes a hue, it's a color, it opens a specific gate within your reality. And I've seen this, and I've got pictures of this that I put up on EBH.club. If you saw it a couple of years ago or a year ago, it might still be up there. You might want to look. So in order that this doesn't get out of balance using the matrix in this manner, that is the matrix, by the way, is that Archangel Michael created a peace treaty amongst everybody that was in control, even the darkness, because we had, 3 stages of darkness and 3 stages of light. Somebody had to play the role of the dark. And that dark was the Lucifer, who was supposed to be, Archangel Michael's brother, who portrayed Hades, created the underworld for us so that we could learn. And there was a treaty, and it was called the Ankara. The treaty is called Ankara, and Archangel Michael broke it in 1995. Archangel Michael, who was Commander Valiant Thor, came into the Pentagon in the 1950s. He wanted to see what the heck was going on. Why aren't people ascending? Why are the Earthlings getting trapped in the underworld? It was told to me from Ray Kozolondich that the human race did not ascend 3 times. And then that stops the flow of the realms all ascending at the same time and energetically moving people to where they want to go during a convergence. So this was a big problem. And what occurred was that the spiritual light workers were sent in to incarnate, to figure out what was going on here, but also to break the cycles of what I want to say a curse, somebody that is stuck doing the same thing generation after generation, and they're not learning, they're not migrating forward with their consciousness. They're becoming lazy and complacent with their ability to use their wand. So in 1995, that all came to a stop. And Michael said, wait a minute, pal, this ain't working. He didn't say it like that. I'm sure this is me talking. But he said, okay, this isn't working for us. Let's regather and we need to fix this paradigm because it's not working right. This realm is broken. There was allegedly about 174 Earth-like planets within different timelines that were all invaded by the Dracos. And they came from the Draco star system. They are pirates. They were evil beyond evil. And they could not ascend as higher beings within Michael's realm. So they ripped through our space-time continuum to go where it was the easiest to manipulate the people, which was the people that were under a veil, living in a world where it could be dark or light, right? So they broke in here and they took over. So the Lightworkers work with Archangel Michael, and they're on a specific squad. They have to have a certain personality. They have to be grounded in their spiritual selves, their I am. They are different in their making. They're usually very intuitive. They don't mind being alone. They find that animals are their friends more than these beings that we call earthlings. And they enjoy peace and quiet, harmony, grounding. They don't watch TV. They don't listen to the radio. They're into listening to the birds chirp because it raises your frequency. They're monitoring bees because bees or elevate your frequency. They tend to gravitate to other things that raise your frequency that nobody knows about, and they do it unconsciously. They just know that they need to have crystals or books or have certain kind of fabrics. They wear fabrics, different kinds of clothes. They don't get caught up in labels or materialism things. People that are light workers are going to be more grounded in security and safety than monetary things. They're not going to be driving, new Bentleys or anything. They're not going to be having these corporate jobs because they don't dance to that tune. They will be more having their own careers developed. You could go to school, learn everything that there is, and then they like transform it into a positive instead of working for the dark. I like to call them the elves. They're like Archangel Michael's elves, and they jump in using the ribbon from the packages, and they slide into this reality, and they're actually sliding into bloodlines of families that are really entrenched into the 3D movement, big time earthlings. And so they have to endure this mega stress and stupidity from not only what the parents are doing, but everybody around them that the parents associate with. It's just stinking thinking at its best. And so these elves, which are the spiritual light workers, will jump in and start to rattle everybody's cage and start to get people to think outside of the box. Here's the key. You might not know at that time that the people that are around you, you've changed their consciousness forever. even though you don't see it in this lifetime, but when they recycle, when they start living again, whatever the elf, spiritual light worker, has created within their environment has shaken everybody up to the point where they're going to be able to make better life choices the next time around. I don't know what it is about our compass, but if everybody is going to the left because they're going to go for something, the spiritual light workers don't. They go to the right because they're always geared for privacy and quiet harmony and sort of this self meditation that you can create even when you're cleaning your home. So you can bring your body and your essence to that 0 point where you're manifesting just by folding the laundry. Once you learn that it's a radio station that you're tapping into, it's a frequency, it's a pathway, the yellow brick road. And I don't mean this negatively, but there's like a yellow brick road that goes to this ability to create what you want. The Dracos took everything that were clues to us about creating and manifesting and empowering ourselves, and they twisted it. And I have a really good example coming up. So hold on. Okay. So when Venus was involved, they were consulted by Michael and the other archangels, and they put together a crew to come in and help out the Earth timeline, the 3D. So everybody had to get involved. So you can imagine that we have 124, approximately 124 to 127. George is saying 127, but 3 weren't as bad because they had just started taking them over. But there's 124 bad, and ours is pretty much the worst. But what happened is that you have all these timelines. So imagine like each timeline being a piece of yarn, and all these yarns are lined up on top of each other, each one having a different color because it has a different hue because of the frequency of the people. So as all these 127 pieces of yarn that are stacked on each other, that they all start to turn dark. And Archangel Michael can see this, and he's like, whoa, what is going on? So they bring the crew in, and they find out that this is generating from the Pentagon at the USA, or from the Pope, or from King Charles, or from Germany, and then going back to Kazakhstan and looking at the fallen angels, their Atandra, where they have the Council of 200 of the fallen angels that sit there and dictate what's going to happen to humanity and controlling all the minions in between. He's analyzing all this. Again, he goes, Commander Valiant Thor goes to the Pentagon, parks his ship. I think it was a couple miles away, 3 miles away from the Pentagon, lands a ship, gets out. Security goes over and arrests him immediately, takes him into the Pentagon, goes through underground tunnels, and Michael just goes through it, figuring out, okay, where are we? Okay, now we got tunnels. Now we got this many guards. They're wearing this suit. They're wearing these badges. And he starts analyzing everything, and he's noticing everything around him, and he's making a mental note. And at night, when he goes back, they would put him in an apartment in the Pentagon. And at night, they had like this steel door, this really thick steel door. I don't know how many inches it was, probably about like 5-6 inches, this steel door. Think of a bank vault door times 2. Okay. So they put him in this thing, and it has a window that's eye level with another steel closer lid, and they could open it, see him in his apartment. They put him in there, stick him in his apartment, shut the window, and then they go to check, and poof, every night he's gone. How is that happening? It's because he's got the best technology you can imagine, and nobody's going to stop him from doing anything. So he would go up into his ship at night and transcribe everything that happened. He would move it into the movie screen, kind of like Harry Potter, taking out that gray thing and sticking his memories into a device. And then he would come back the next day and he would just play along with what the Dracos were doing. So Hitler actually was taking out and eliminating the Rothschilds and the fake Jews. That's who he was after. And the Rothschilds were losing the war. That's World War One. They were losing the war. So the Rothschilds then got with the Vril Society, which were these witch women that were able to communicate with the Dracos. Having the same bloodline is probably a lot of the reason why. So they were able to communicate with the Dracos. And the Dracos were told and informed what was going on within this timeline on the 3D Earth. So the Dracos made an agreement through the Vril Society, through some woman with blonde hair, made an agreement that was then conveyed to the Rothschilds. They agreed to it. And so the Dracos were brought in via what the Rothschilds were doing at that time with CERN. The scientists were able to open up portals and bring these suckers in. Once they came in, that was World War II. When they came in, they started taking over. And Hitler knew about them. And that's what he was fighting. He actually had his own UFOs that were available to fight the Dracos off, or the Dracos. And the Dracos pretty much took over because the whole world wasn't involved in securing our planetary system. Because at that time, the Rothschilds, which operated from the history, is going to go something like this. I don't have it exact, but something like this. So you have Enlil and Enki, Isis, the three pirates of Draco, came in. This was their conquest, is to take over this 127 planetary system and harvest Archangel Michael's blood type, his bloodline, his creation. And the Dracos would then be able to harvest us at will. And that was the agreement. Rothschilds didn't care because all they wanted was the power of this planet. They wanted to be able to control the Dracos. So they had a warrior, Solomon, that worked. King Solomon's dad was involved in this and worked with them. So it was at the time of Egypt where they started to come in. And then by World War II came around, it was all out time for the conquest of this planet. The Rothschilds are the bloodline that goes back to this infiltration. They are the bloodline, I believe, of not only the fallen angels. So here's a really interesting story, is that you have who was the king, of the Middle East. Now we're finding out the Grand Canyon is the original Egypt. So it might have been happening here in the United States, is that Solomon was king here, and that we got it all wrong where Mount Hermes is and all of that. It's probably somewhere more like Las Vegas, where Hoover Dam is, and there's a portal where they kept coming in. So the Hoover Dam is where the Nephilim were, and there's these societies that were set up in the cave that came from these fallen bloodlines. And Solomon then marries Queen Sheba. Queen Sheba, both being black, they created this fallen angel paradigm, which were black beings that could fly. And these black beings are the ones that fell from grace because they're not being incorporated into this timeline organically. They're actually infusing them into this timeline. And they were dark because you have Solomon, who had the 5 rings of controlling the demons. And then you had Queen Sheba, that was a shapeshifter jinn. And they can shapeshift into werewolves or snakes or whatever they want. So when you marry, now you got Baal, Akhenaten. He goes by many names, probably Thoth, I don't know. And he's now housed at the Vatican. This was where his throne was to be, was the Vatican, and he controlled the Knights of Templar, which is that down cross, right? This is all an attack against Archangel Michael. Now, Archangel Michael has his bloodline on the reverse side, which is King Arthur. King Arthur has Excalibur, which is the sword that Archangel Michael gave him, Valiant Thor gave him. And the way that I understand it is that Archangel Michael, Valiant Thor, would control the skies, and it was King Arthur that was supposed to control the lands. And he was supposed to make sure that there was no evil, no demonic energy, and that they would work in tandem to create this heaven on earth. But then, of course, we fell into this abyss, and there was this period where we went through the dark ages, and Archangel Michael had to leave. And it was then King Arthur going through these recycling periods as well. And we were kept into this veil. That's when it was like we had a stream of information going along, and then all of a sudden the Draco stole that, and through history they were able to create these tragedies that would drop us in frequency further down. So our timeline kept dropping and dropping. So you have all these various wars, the Vietnam War, the Cuba crisis, what happened in Russia. I mean, just all over. These wars were all intentional, not just to kill everybody, but more important, to put everybody into a recycling system of slavery, dropping those timelines each time by creating a 9/11 event, a 3/11 event. They kept dropping us. And then they would keep it through the CIA and the FBI. They would keep us harnessed into that low vibration. And anybody that started to elevate with their knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom, they would go and they would either try to get them to join up into the Freemason Society so that they could control their intelligent mind and use it for dark purposes, or they would just whack them. They'd kill them. Right. So you see a lot of people that started going undercover. One of the worst things you could do is bring any kind of flim flam to your name or your wisdom, because you would be hacked, you'd be attacked, you'd be followed. You'd always see these men in black stories following people that tried to break through the glass ceiling. Andrew Bashar is a great example because he was a time jumper. He worked through the CIA and he would jump times to go see what was going on when he was a kid. When I met him and he started telling his story, 20 years ago or something, 15 years ago, when he started telling his story, he was being followed by the men in black. There were other people that learned how to open up portals and then mysteriously just start to disappear because the men in black would show up. They'd want to steal everything. This happened to Royal Rife, it happened to Tesla, it just happened over and over and over again. And that's how they kept us suspended in the lowest version of a timeline that they possibly could. And then what they did is they started rewarding all the stupid people for being stupid. So that's when they started putting really stupid people into high top positions. And anybody that had any intelligence or spirituality or compassion, they were kicked out and they were homeless. They were moved out. You're not going to be part of our system. And the Freemasons helped to keep all these mechanics going on so that the Dracos could control this reality, control people, control their thoughts, control what you learned, what you envisioned, what you manifest, what you ate. Everything was all being controlled from one center location, which is the Pentagon. So right now in history, the Vatican's been taken down, London's been taken down. So the control of the population was being done through the Vatican. Their mind, their beliefs, their everyday activities is being controlled from the Vatican. London, Rothschilds had all the money and they controlled everything that was happening as far as who would get money and who wouldn't. If you have money, you survived. If you didn't, you'd be homeless and living in a cave or something, or like a lot of people are living in their cars now. They're good people, but they were kicked out because they are good people. So then you have also people that work as the enforcers within this system, and they have badges and they're able to do whatever they want to do. And we're seeing videos of police officers who are literally, when the law is recited to them in the Constitution, they say, we don't care. We're the boss. We do what we want. They think that they have the full gamut and some kind of a license to treat people any way that they want. And it's because their job is to harass you and to knock your energy frequency down. The only way that you can really keep your frequency up is by habitating yourself at home, creating your own systems, working for yourself, and avoiding anything that's in the outside world right now, because that is total chaos. And you need to worry about you and what you're creating so that you can grow and tap in to this violet ray. It's a consciousness that's 150 million years old, and it's the central sun of all of this. Do you have any thoughts?
The only thing that I was thinking is that it's interesting how they've really turned everything literally upside down. Like they even talked about the maps. If you turn them upside, they turn the maps upside down. You got the flat earth instead of the round earth. We've been lied to literally about everything.
That's because they didn't want you to find your power. Because we're wizards. We have wands, we have a dragon for protection, and we know nothing. We don't know how to use crystals. We don't know how to align our chakras. We don't know how to empower ourselves. We don't know that we can make ourselves smarter just by tapping into the ethers and tapping into that group consciousness. We can do that. We can fly. We have the ability to fly. There is no gravity. Gravity is a lie. Einstein worked at a patent office and was a Freemason. They needed somebody that could put out the propaganda of disinformation about gravity so that they could keep us down so that we wouldn't know that we can manipulate magnetics and fly. So they brought Einstein out, a clerk, and they said, we're going to make you into this scientist and you're going to be some big deal someday. He was a cross dresser and part of the fag society that controlled humanity and our thinking. And so he was the one that was given the label of gravity, which is total disinformation. There's a quote, famous quote. Some guy went up to Einstein and said, what does the most intelligent man have to say? And Einstein said, well, you'll have to go ask Tesla.
Huh? Wow.
Everybody knew Tesla was one of the most brilliant minds. Now, here's what's funny is that Venus was sending not only light workers in to change this reality, but they were also taking babies and giving them to parents that couldn't have children. And then they would let earthlings then grow these children. And these children that were brought up in these families were actually brought up learning and understanding earth, language, or wherever you came from, cultures, and what was happening with the deep state and the control structure. And then when they got older, they would start putting like these pearls in place where they could go back later and develop it at the time of ascension. And the same thing happened with the deep state is that the Dracos created these black pearls that at the time of ascension, they would crack the whip and they would start genociding everybody and poisoning everybody so that we couldn't ascend. They knew through a conversation that, wait, I'll get it in a minute. What's his name?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. So Tom Cruise gave an interview one time and he said that we needed to have a population greater than them and we're so and so many short still. So all the reptilians were trying to have more children, but they take longer in gestation. That's why it was important to kill all the kids off, is because what they needed to do was have more of them energetically than us to be able to manipulate the timeline so that we couldn't ascend. They were doing it again. But what they didn't expect was the spiritual light workers that jumped into this timeline to change it. And then you have Isabel. Isabel actually had people from this one planetary system, or like a continent, that had the Christ teachings that would come in and they would start to set up schools. And this is what they did for the schooling that Christ went to, that was in Scotland, and learned all these different teachings. Is the work that they left was manuscripts of how to ascend. They left it throughout history. And what the dark did, the Dracos did, is through their kings, they then would distort those belief systems. So what they would do is they took all the writings from the Isabel group, the Christ group, and they would put it into a Bible, which they had plagiarized many thousands of people that were in our history that had this Christ knowledge. And they put it into a Bible that they could control. And in that Bible is also black magic. And this was done by the Knights Templar. So as you have King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table, you also have on the flip side the Antichrist and his soldiers, his knights that were combating good and always fighting against each other. So Z from Russia is where the Knights of the Round Table are. They actually spread out, but primarily that's where they were at. So you see this fighting happening for the timeline for many, many, many thousands of years. Many thousands of years this has been going on. And the Dracos was a game changer, because when they came in World War I and World War II, and the Rothschilds and their group brought them in, then that's what flipped this for evil. And that's why Valiant Thor had to come in with his army to flip this back, because it got out of control. So in 1995, Archangel Michael said, no more, this agreement is gone, and we're going to start cleaning up this place. And everybody that was doing works on behalf of the Dracos were all listed in an indictment. And I believe it's up to 95 people can be arrested under one indictment. And we're not using the court of the corporation. We're using our military court, that JAG, which actually is associated to SpaceX, which is actually associated with Archangel Michael, who's Commander Valiant Thor, who's calling all the shots of what's happening and how they're moving everything now. Anybody that was in the process of genociding the population, controlling the population for genocide, or instilling fear and policing for genocide, is all being removed by the galactic military, which is infused in JAG. You can't, it's one and the same. They don't play, and they follow God's law, which is common law, but it's also natural law. So anybody that is against life is going to lose their own life, an eye for an eye. Any questions?
This is including all the people that worked for the Luciferian organizations, people that think that they're just doing their job, trying to make a living. If they're instilling those Luciferian ideas and taking people out, they're also involved in that list that you're referring to, correct?
Yep. All. Nobody will get left behind. That is a promise from Archangel Michael. He will go through with a fine-tooth comb and isolate, identify each and every person that has this weak spiritual personality, and they will be eliminated. They can go and recycle, go through the process, figure out what they did wrong, and then they will have to repay all those lives that they took from people, all of them. And that's how long they will spend in the underworld until they have learned their lesson. Trump has mentioned at his last convention that there is an invisible wall around Nevada. And that invisible wall is Valiant Thor. It's Commander Valiant Thor and his ship. And I want to say he's also extended that into Arizona as well, and maybe parts of Utah. There was a big portal in above Lake Hoover, and that's where the dark ones were coming in from, is that portal that was created using the water and the energies of Nevada. And that's why, again, here's Commander Valiant Thor. What does he do? Takes his ship and he parks right on top of it. That's how they operate. Come on, suckers, let's go. They'll take them on. They have courage beyond courage. I mean, if you look up courage in the dictionary, I'm pretty sure it says Commander Valiant Thor and his team.
And that's freaking awesome.
Yeah. So what we don't know is that there are dragons that are hiding in the crystal caves, and the caves are the mountains. All the mountains that you see around are actually, the inner side is all crystals. You can tell the difference between a mountain a tree, and the giant mushrooms. So, what we're supposed to be developing in this 3D environment to get out of the underworld is the self. We have to master the self, and that's doing that with the Merkabas and balancing all three. Remember, it's the gold, the druid, which is the Isabel group, who established the druid star. And some want to say it's evil. No, it's the Druze that did paganism. Go back to the King Arthur movies and start looking at what was happening. So the cleanup is going on now, and we are on the King Arthur timeline. Whether or not he joins us, we don't know. It just might be that he fixes the earth and Archangel Michael does the top. I don't know. We'll have to see how this goes. I do know that Commander Valiant Thor also employs people and beings that are ant people and mole people, and they played a very big role in the inner earth that was created by these monsters, by the Dracos. They were weaponizing all kinds of creatures by playing around with DNA, and that's not allowed. So they're going to go boom. The violet flame, which is very important for your spiritual personality, is your pituitary gland. I've talked about that before. And the central sun of the 7 realms is a violet flame. And this violet flame is what you are tapped into as a higher consciousness being. And when you tap into that energy, that frequency, and you have an ebb and flow going from the central sun, the violet flame, you are going to increase your, not only your DNA, but your consciousness, your mind matter, and you're going to be accelerating as a spiritual being. That is why the Vatican wore purple. That is why Donny Osmond wore purple. That is why Hillary wore purple, is because and though his favorite color was purple. Why? Because we have soul memories of the violet flame that we tap into, but because they screw us up and they mixed everything up, they now became the objects of our glorification, of our wanting to tap into, to fix our brains, to do the connection. So they did a bait and switch, and here they are, and we're thinking, oh, is this my violet flame? Isn't that crazy how they did that? They usurped the power of the central sun, the violet flame, the big kahuna, and they tried to impose themselves on that ideology that we had. So the lands of Venus, I just want to go over this very quickly. This is kind of cute, is Ruth, Metner, Isabella, Kunitz, and Gregory. And Isabella is Arabic, and it means beautiful Jesus. So Isa, I-S-A, means Jesus in Arabic. Okay. So it's not a person, it's a place. Just like Jerusalem isn't a town, it's actually a spaceship, and it has 11 floors to it. Okay. Talked about that before. So many people from Isabella incarnate in this 3D realm, planetary system, so that we can learn and ascend. We can grow, being able to operate off of our own free will. Rome would destroy this realm through kings and emperors. Emperor Constantine is the one that created the Bible. You have to know it was all plagiarized. They mirrored whatever was good, they mimicked it. They created this alternate reality by creating a false God, and they took everything that we had and then they duplicated it for dark. So it's not that hard to find out. Wherever there's good, there's going to be bad. Wherever there's bad, there's got to be a good. Christ is ginger, blue eyes. He's Venus, and they're tall people. He has the heart of a lion. You too have a heart of a lion. Your consciousness was screwed up due to all of this mechanics from the Dracos. And it's very easy to fix, you guys. It's very easy. That's why it's really important that you take time and isolate your belief systems and flip them. And when you do that, you're going to be on what I call the golden brick road back to our realm of consciousness of the angelic realm. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I wanted to let you guys know that we don't take money for doing these. Instead, we're accepting tips. So if you can find our tip button and throw us a little coffee money, that would be great, because Tom spends long hours doing these videos and it's taking him off of his work, and this way it helps us pay the bills. So thanks again, you guys. Have a great life. Believe in yourself, and we'll be back on another day. See ya. Love ya. Bye.
See you guys. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
As today's journey through the quantum shift concludes, remember that our voyage into 5D wonderment and magic continues. With George, our galactic guide, and the guidance of the archangels, we're unlocking new realms of wisdom and mastery. Thank you for joining Dr. Sam Mugzzi and Digital Tom on this enlightening path. Keep your parachute ready for our next leap into the unknown as we explore the vastness of spiritual awakening. Until we meet again, keep your gaze on the stars and your heart open to the universe's endless possibilities. Farewell, and see you next time on The Quantum Shift.